FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, today is July 15th, 2020. Well, a new book out, and I think it's one you're going to want to take a look at, called Disloyal Opposition. Maybe it should have been called Disloyal Allies, how the NeverTrump Right Tried and failed to take down the president. And, we try to stay away from politics somewhat on this show. After all, we are a family publication, if you will, but sometimes you just got to throw your arms up and go with it. Anyway, I'd like to know what you think about the NeverTrump movement. Are you a NeverTrumper? If you are, we'd love to hear from you as well. And the email address is kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. Right now, the author of that book, Julie Kelly, is with us. Now, Julie, it's great to have you on. And, well, this is Donald Trump's skill set. One of them is really lifting the veil on people who you thought were on your side, but had been screwing you all along, right?
That's right. It is a gift of his.
Yeah, and these NeverTrumpers, and we have to put National Review. I don't even know if they actually publish a physical magazine anymore, but that was William Buckley's publication, and it's morphed since his passing, since he's no longer involved with it. But you got all these guys who were purportedly non-interventionist, I guess we would say more on the libertarian side of the Republican Party, and they reacted to the point where they were supporting Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump, and everything they supposedly stood for was then on display that, hey, maybe they weren't really who they said they were after all.
That's right. And so it has been kind of a wake-up call for those of us who trusted these people, who believed them, who thought they, were people of integrity and good character, because it turns out that they're not. And they will really say and do anything right now to hang on to their kind of fading political strategy, careers, or columns at the Washington Post or wherever, by giving this fake impression that there's a big chunk of Republicans and conservatives opposed to the president. So my book kind of details the origins of NeverTrump, who they are, what they've been doing the past 4 or 5 years, and how so far they've been unsuccessful in their attempts to take out Donald Trump. And
isn't it true that they're really, they call themselves Republicans, right? But isn't it true that they're really, they're just part of the Washington machine, if you will, the Washington system that really has no regard for you, for your interest. All they care about basically is lining their own pockets and pursuing their own interest. Do I have that right?
You do. And look, I have no problem with people making money. I have no problem with people pursuing their own self-interest. That's fine. The problem is that these people are total hypocrites, and they're really the way that they're going about it, especially at a time when we're in this destructive, dangerous political climate, to have them working with the left actively and supporting Democrats to take over control of the White House, the Senate, and keep a majority in the House. These so-called conservatives and Republicans.
Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I think that is what my book really wants to hold them to account, because we should have everyone who's on the right side of the spectrum, and even independents. If you care about the future of this country, if you want to keep our history, our past, our present, and our future, we can't let the Democrats get in control. But that's what they're working toward. And I don't think they're thinking of the ramifications of what that means for our country.
Well, one thing I have noticed, Julie, is I won't say that Trump wins every battle. Certainly, he's got a lot of battle scars to show for his efforts. But one thing I have noticed is that everyone who takes him on, regardless what their political ideology, eventually has something very bad happen in their lives, whatever it might be, seemingly unrelated to their complaints or their challenges to Trump. Eventually, they all fail, and they all wind up having bad things happen to their careers and whatever.
Well, that's what is interesting, Kerry. So the NeverTrumpers are reorganizing. They've got these new projects out. One is the Lincoln Project. There's another one, Republican Voters Against Biden. And they're propped up really by a collection of losers or people that you've never heard of. Some of them are being paid by the left, not the right, and I talk about that, expose that in my book. And so that's kind of what their shtick is. But yes, they failed at every attempt so far. They failed in trying to stop him from winning the nomination. They failed in trying to stop him from winning the election. A lot of them predicted he wouldn't survive the first year in office. They supported the Robert Mueller investigation. They thought for sure that Mueller would come up with some crimes that would result in Trump, being arrested and hauled out of the Oval Office. So none of their predictions have come true yet. And so let's hope that they're going to be wrong once again in November, and it'll be yet another failed prediction on their part.
So a guy like Bill Kristol used to be a regular panelist on Fox News. Now he's been relegated to CNN, which I guess is probably where he should have been all along. Don't you find that interesting?
Well, that's exactly right. What's funny is you look at MSNBC or CNN, the Washington Post or New York Times, the people, for the most part, and this is certainly true of cable, that they have on there as alleged Republicans are all anti-Trump Republicans. I mean, they don't have people like me on there or other Trump-supporting political commentators or writers. They only have these faux conservative anti-Trumpers because that's what gratifies their audience. So their audience wants to believe that there are a lot of Republicans and conservatives opposed to Trump, which we know is not true. The Washington Post, New York Times readers, they want to think that someone like Jennifer Rubin or Max Boot or Bret Stephens actually represents the Republican Party, and somehow the election of Donald Trump was just a fluke, and that's not true either. So they definitely play this little game of, imaginary conservatives opposed to Trump. But that's how they keep their gigs on these cable networks and at the Post and at the New York Times.
And isn't this really all about them lining their own pockets, basically playing both sides of the street? And, they're, like you said, faux Republicans. I'm not much on political parties myself. I lean more toward libertarian, but there is a party that is out to destroy the country. And by the appearances, I don't think it was the Republicans, but I could be wrong about it. I won't deny it. The Republicans, these rhinos, if you will, have really not stuck by the president. You look at guys like Lindsey Graham, and they're really kind of partners with the NeverTrump contingent, aren't they?
Well, they have been. I mean, my book lays out the late Senator John McCain, how he really helped perpetuate the bogus Russian collusion hoax, how he worked with Jim Comey's FBI, how he used his power and influence on Capitol Hill as chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee to advance this phony idea that the Trump campaign colluded with the Kremlin to influence the outcome of the election, that somehow Donald Trump was illegitimately elected because Vladimir Putin helped him out. So John McCain really helped perpetuate that. And then as soon as, he was gone, passed away, then who do we have fill his shoes but Mitt Romney, who's, attacking the president every chance he gets. He took another swing at him on Twitter this weekend about the Roger Stone commutation. But Kerry, at the same time, you have somebody like Mitt Romney condemning Roger Stone's commutation, but has not said one word about what Barack Obama's Justice Department and Jim Comey and all those other thugs did to private U.S. citizens, not just Donald Trump, but, a three-star general, Mike Flynn, private unpaid volunteers like Carter Page, lying to a secret court, telling a secret court that Carter Page was an agent of Russia, using political propaganda from the dossier to prove their point. And so that is what, these Republicans have done. And to your point about Lindsey Graham, we have a Senate GOP that has done really nothing to hold these collusion culprits accountable. And that's really not just a travesty for Donald Trump, but for the country. We can't allow political prosecutions of our people just because they volunteered for the wrong political campaign. I mean, that's a slippery slope the country should not want to go down. But that's exactly where we're headed. And we have people like Lindsey Graham who've allowed those people to go unscathed in the public eye.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And it's kind of a miracle that Trump has survived all this. I guess he said he learned the lesson from Nixon is don't fire anybody when you're under investigation. Wait till it's over and then fire them all. And that's what he's been in the process of doing.
Right. And, we're waiting for John Durham, who is the U.S. attorney who was appointed by Bill Barr to look into the origins of the FBI investigation into Donald Trump and his campaign. And who knows if that's going to happen. But we've heard so many empty threats from people like Lindsey Graham and other Senate Republicans about getting to the bottom of this. And now we know that Joe Biden was directly involved in the framing of Mike Flynn. There's been no public hearing about that. So I just go back to, had these NeverTrumpers or even the, tepid supporters of Donald Trump in Congress done their job in 2017 and 2018, we'd be looking at a much different political climate right now, where these people would have been exposed for what they tried to do to the country. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And they're still running cover for them as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, usually if someone doesn't do something their first term and they say, oh, I'm going to do it this time, I'm a little bit wary of it. But in this case, there's real reasons why. One thing when we look at Trump, it's kind of one of those things where you need to often ignore his words and look at his deeds. And when it comes to things like deregulation, there's never been any president like him in history who's actually cut back on federal bureaucratic power, is there?
No, there isn't. And, I think this is part of why the NeverTrumpers and the Democrats are exploiting and leveraging everything that they can out of coronavirus and the lockdown and now the race wars, because earlier this year, you looked at Trump's record, his approval ratings, definitely how deregulation, this has got to be the most deregulatory, happy administration in history, even outpacing what Ronald Reagan attempted to do. And that has had big impacts on the economy and business growth, because they knew that they weren't going to be dealing with a president who was trying to impose costly, burdensome regulations on their business. So that's one of the really untold successes of Trump's presidency. But that's why he had amassed and still has amassed a resume of great accomplishments. And the Democrats knew they were up against a major headwind going into 2020. And so they've really exploited all these crises to their benefit, the most of which is keeping Joe Biden in his basement away from reporters and voters, where he, doesn't have to be scripted and, isn't caught on camera screaming at voters and accosting reporters like he was before the lockdown stay-at-home order. So there's a lot of benefit of this situation to the Democrats.
And calling voters fat and and pointing his finger. The guy's... There's a vast majority of people that generally believe he's in the... they call him Dementia Joe. That's his nickname here. And for good reason, too. And as far as these guys go, the NeverTrumpers, they're going to get their comeuppance this election?
I really hope so. I hope this is just the final nail in the coffin for this crew. It really should be. They should just be ashamed of themselves for supporting Joe Biden, because look, we know Joe Biden's not going to be running the White House. Joe Biden can barely, finish a sentence without any kind of help. So this will be the far left of the party, the Obama people, who will be running the show in Washington. And so I think that voters are waking up to that. I think they know that Joe Biden's not capable of being president. They're worried that the far left, the AOC, Bernie Sanders wing of the party will be running it, which is true. And that Donald Trump has just been savagely attacked, undermined at every single turn. A guy, can't get a break from the media or the Democrats or these NeverTrumpers. And that, despite his flaws, and he certainly has them, we're in much better shape with him in the White House than the Democrats.
Yeah, I think you're probably correct on that score. So who do you think is the biggest offender as far as the NeverTrumpers go?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. At Silver One's Candelaria Mine project in Nevada, there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver, which Silver One is developing and advancing. The company's Phoenix Silver project, located within the Arizona Silver Belt, is an early-stage exploration project on which native silver vein fragments have been discovered near surface. One grab sample assayed an astounding 14,688 ounces per ton. Yes, that's right, ounces, not grams. Silver One has tremendous exploration potential, is extremely leveraged to the price of silver, and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
I think it depends on, what you're looking at. I think there are, Bill Kristol certainly is one of them. You have Rick Wilson, who's just really a vile, bottom-feeding, failed political consultant at one time. He hasn't done anything successfully, but he's paid off to say horrible things on CNN. And now he's involved in this Lincoln Project too. They're producing these really awful ads. Now they're accusing the president of wanting to kill children because he wants to reopen schools in the fall, which as a parent, I think is an absolute necessity. And so I would say the people like Jonah Goldberg and David French, who worked at the National Review, I think people viewed them as fair-minded observers of the political process. They become nothing more than just this clanging cowbell of, bad orange man. People like David French attacking evangelicals for supporting Donald Trump in a way that I think borders on religious bigotry, wouldn't be tolerated against any other religious group. So I think it just varies. Then you have people like Jennifer Rubin, who's just kind of this shrieking shrew on MSNBC and says terrible things about Trump's family and his advisors. So, but as far as power and influence, as I write in the book, they're right now just really useful idiots to the left. And the funny thing is, if Joe Biden wins, once he the Democrats take power, they will have no need for these NeverTrumpers at all. So they'll be in no man's land, will be fine.
So they're only useful because as long as Trump is in the White House, once if he's gone, then they're gone, and their usefulness is no more.
That's exactly right. So in a weird way, they should hope that Trump wins so they can keep their shtick going. They're like parasites who need their host. Well, that could be. Right. That's right. Let's hope it backfires.
Yeah, maybe they really do want Trump to win. And they're what you call a LARP, which is a live action role player. So they're playing, in these video games. So they're actually playing a role here, and they don't believe any of it. And that would be the most cynical of things. They're just doing it for the money and for the bottom line without any belief in anything. And that's kind of frightening in and of itself, isn't it?
Yes, it really is, because there's nothing conservative or Republican about them anymore. In fact, some have denounced whatever one-time membership they had with the Republican Party. So they're just willing to do and say anything to keep their shtick going, which is fine. But I've always said I'd rather deal with the left, a Democrat who, they're truthful, at least about what their end game is, rather than these frauds.
Hey, you know what you're dealing with, right? It's like dealing with the New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. People love me, hate me, but they know where I stand.
That's right.
And it's so important that you see through everybody's agenda. So, and even if they were ever to be retained, if the other side got into power, then what? They're going to be in these meaningless positions, just spinning things and all of this, right?
Right. So, you just wonder how many Washington Post columns Jennifer Rubin can write attacking Trump supporters as white supremacists. How many times can they just keep regurgitating the same line, the same attacks, the same name calling? But apparently that's what these outlets want. If Trump wins, will they re-examine the usefulness of even those people? It's hard to say. They'll take anyone at this point, I think, to say what their readers or viewers want to hear.
Yeah, and that Jennifer Rubin, I read her work for years, and she seemed to be a totally rational human being. A lot of people appeared to be completely rational, Julie, and yet now Trump came in and you found out, wow, that person really is a little bit, outside the norm, shall we say?
Well, yes, I think that's one. But Jennifer Rubin and Max Boot and even Bill Kristol, I go through in my book, they were against the Iran nuclear deal. They said that it was a threat to our national security. Obama shouldn't be working with the mullahs and sending cash over there to, then fund other terrorist groups. Well, then Trump is elected, and all of a sudden the repeal of the Iran nuclear deal is a terrible idea, according to Jennifer Rubin. They opposed big government spending programs before Trump was elected. Now, all of a sudden, they want big spending. You go down the list, illegal immigration, they wanted to tighten border security. Then Trump gets elected and they're for open borders. So I go through all of the various issues that they once promoted and that were more on the conservative spectrum. But suddenly Trump gets elected and they have this awakening to the left, and from climate change to immigration, tax policy, identity politics, you name it. They are fully in the camp of the left and the Democratic Party.
Yeah, you know what they said, that if Trump came out and said he endorsed air, they would hold their breaths till they died.
That's right.
In protest. But
that's right.
So the book, you want to take a look at it? Disloyal Opposition, How the NeverTrump Right Tried and Failed to Take Down the President. And our good friend Victor Davis Hanson said it was a bombshell. It's by Julie Kelly. And of course, you can find it wherever fine books used to be sold and Amazon. For that matter, Julie, we wish you the best of luck on the book. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing with you. And hey, we hope we'll be hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, any questions or comments? Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. Sign up for a free newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Julie, best of luck.
Thank you so much, Kerry.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.